We've all done it. We carefully choose beautiful veggies while shopping over the weekend, only to get swept up in a busy week and miss our window to use them before they go bad. Now imagine the efforts of your local grocer trying to balance the supply and demand of your community, matching food with eaters while it's still fresh and nutritious. All told, more than 1/3, 35% of American food goes to waste. That's billions of pounds of edible food filling our landfills. The environmental and human consequences are enormous. Scientists tell us that addressing our food waste crisis would eliminate as much greenhouse gas as recycling, hybrid vehicles, LED lighting, and residential solar systems combined. Through Second Harvest Heartland's network of community partnerships, our food rescue team works to divert this wholesome food to the tables of families who need it. And the need to serve our community has only grown stronger since COVID took hold. Today, we'll talk through innovative solutions that fill tables rather than landfills. This program protects hardworking retailers from the expense of disposing of perfectly edible food. But that's not the only advantage to a program like Second Harvest Heartland's Food Rescue Program. Perhaps the greatest benefit to this solution is the dignified response that our community members receive when they walk into their local food shelf and experience the ability to enjoy the familiar products carried by their local grocer. Talk about a win-win-win. So here's how it works. Every day, our retail food rescue partners offer thousands of pounds of surplus produce, dairy, meat, deli, dry and baked goods up to be rescued. At Second Harvest Heartland, we coordinate the distribution of this food, rerouting it locally so it's shared with our community while it's still fresh. So let's dig in. I'm with a group of folks who've been critical to our community's emergency response during COVID, ensuring that even while we had to miss loved ones, weddings, and other big milestones, no one should have to miss a meal. Together, this team represents the many different partners and players who helped us rescue 38.5 million pounds of food last year when the community needed it most, and are keeping us on track to recover millions more this year and beyond. I'm joined by Carla Bauer, Second Harvest Heartland's Star Food Rescue Specialist, one of our most dedicated food rescue partners, Sarah Peters of Lunds Byerlys, and Lisa Lusk, who helps get rescued food onto the tables of local families with 360 communities. Good morning, everyone. Carla, let's start with you. How does food rescue work? Can you give us a brief explanation?
Yes, I would love to. So grocery stores have food that for whatever reason they can't sell. And that might be because the package on the date on the package is close to coming up. It could be that the food is somehow imperfect. Looking at produce, it's not the absolute perfect piece of produce that a customer might want to purchase, but it's beautiful and it's edible. And the retailer needs to get rid of this food quickly as they constantly have new product coming in. And so in order to prevent the retailer from having to choose to compost or throw it away, we provide a really quick, easy solution to utilizing that food and put it to good use. And so within the food rescue program, we find a way to get that to a local agency partner in order for it to be distributed to community members. We work to connect our agency partners in areas with retailers locally. So it gets the food there quickly, it stays within the community, and in many cases is being served on a family's table the same day the donor has donated it. We have different ways where we collect this food. And so it could be our own food rescue fleet, our hardworking drivers that are out there every day collecting thousands of pounds of food and getting it to a food shelf that same day. The other way, and actually the majority of the time what's happening, is a local food shelf, one of our agency partners, going directly to that retailer and bringing the food back to their site and getting it distributed. And that happens about 61% of the time with our food rescue donations. Our job as the food rescue team at Second Harvest is to support the agency partners and the retail donors that are participating in our food rescue program. So we make sure that they understand how to safely process, box, transport, and distribute this food out to our community members. This is an extremely vital source of food through Second Harvest Heartland. It makes up a third of the food that we distribute. And even in a pandemic, you know, it was scary. We didn't know if we would expect disruptions to this program, but we kept almost at the same level as we previously did the year before. And through this program, we work with about 500 retail donors.
Thank you. That's very, sounds complex. Sarah, can you tell us about Lunds Byerlys Food Rescue Program?
Yeah, I would love to. So the Lunds Byerlys Food Rescue Program has shown growth every year, with the exception of last year, which is pretty evident in the unprecedented year that we had. However, in 2020, Lunds Byerlys did rescue almost 3 million pounds of food, which results in almost 2.5 million meals for our Twin Cities community. Most of these donations are collected from each of our locations by 26 different Second Harvest Heartland agency partners, and then they're distributed same day. So it's very fresh food getting to our community right away. And we're excited. Our Nokomis store is opening on Thursday, and we are partnered with the Community Emergency Services to start our food rescue right away. So we are excited for that. It's a very smooth process working with Second Harvest, and we really love the partnership.
I can tell you we love working with Lunds Byerlys too. So thank you. Lisa, how does food rescue support your efforts at 360 Communities?
Yeah, thank you. We have a network of 5 food shelves that serve the southern and western part of Dakota County. And so food rescue is a critical and important part to our food supply that we are getting out into the community for people who need it. It has really allowed us to carry out our mission of trying to provide healthy food options and more choice to individuals as they come to shop in our food shelf, or during the pandemic when we've been doing our pre-packed drive up model. So the increase in produce and meat and dairy and deli are a wide variety of options that people then have to choose from each time they come. And it's also allowed us to not have to order as much food or spend as much money. It's a really economical way for us to help increase that choice for individuals when they come and the variety of food that they're getting. 4 of our sites pick up, like Carla was referring to, and then we have 1 site where we get the Second Harvest truck that drops. So at those 4 sites that pick up, it's also allowed for a different kind of engagement from volunteers that we use, and a different kind of volunteer opportunity, which some people really enjoy and really like. So I think that's another benefit that we've seen from it.
That's awesome. I'm just going to kind of put this out to everybody. What do you think we can do to encourage more food shelves and more retailers to participate in the food rescue program?
I think that when you're out shopping at your local grocery store, you know, keep your eyes open. You'll see the retail staff not only, you know, replenishing their shelves, but taking things off. And so as you see that, engage in conversation and ask them, you know, is that going to donation? What are you doing with that? And please thank them. Thank them for the work that they do to get that food back out into the community where it's needed. We also, although we work with most major, you know, retailers, our team is also looking at greater Minnesota, you know, smaller independent markets that can also contribute to food rescue and support their local agencies. So, you know, anyone is welcome to participate in food rescue, and we'd love to hear from folks who are interested.
Anyone else? I just wanted to add too that, you know, we're kind of interested in some of the local co-ops or local cultural markets is another way that we would love to branch out. So please feel free to, you know, to ask your local grocer where you shop. I think that's a really great way. It's a really great idea. How's your work changing now that the community is beginning to reopen?
I can speak to that a little bit if you want. So as I mentioned before, we've been doing a pre-packed drive-up model since COVID started at our food shelves. And we are looking at reopening in more of a hybrid model beginning of July. So offering some in food shelf appointments to shop, as well as still offering that drive-up model. We know that there are people that will continue to want the drive-up model. Maybe it's because of convenience or they're just not comfortable being in the food shelves yet, but we also know that people are really ready to get back in and shop and have their own choice. So we're updating our protocols and surveying volunteers to find out about their level of comfort, navigating the new changes in the mask mandate that's gone away. So lots of conversation happening right now about how we're going to continue to kind of evolve through the summer.
Evolve, that's a great word. Sarah, did you want to chime in on that at all? Has your work changed now that the community is beginning to open?
Sure. So with the when COVID first hit, when the pandemic first hit, we saw a huge spike in our online shopping business, which makes sense, right? People are a little bit less comfortable coming into our stores. But we have since seen a turnaround with that where online is going down, but in-store is picking up again. So people are becoming more and more comfortable with shopping inside our stores. We do take all types of precautions when it comes to COVID with extra cleaning and all of that. So you can feel free to be safe while you're shopping in our store, but it is something that we have definitely seen a shift in.
And I would say from the food rescue team perspective, this last year, you know, as I mentioned before, it was scary. We didn't know what to expect. We knew that our retail partners were so hard at work responding to this demand with COVID. And we found that our job stayed the same. We were just doing everything at the same time, double time. So as we're supporting agency partners going out to their communities, as I mentioned, most of the time, that's how the food's collected. And when you have, you know, agency partners, the priority for all of us is that the volunteers stay safe, our retail partners are safe, our food rescue drivers are safe. And so that really, you know, from day to day, we had changes that had to be made with who was going to collect and how was it going to be collected. And so working with agency partners and our food rescue drivers on process and, you know, ensuring that the food was somehow still being collected. So we had to get innovative, we had to get creative to make sure that these donations weren't just going to fall to the wayside and end up, you know, being composted or in a landfill. And so I would say it was just a very, very busy, robust time. And, you know, as I said, I'm really proud to say that we did not see huge decreases in our food rescue program, which was not the case all over the country. And I think that that really says a lot to the relationships that Second Harvest and our agency partners have with our retailers, because even though it was such a tough time for so many, we were all reaching for the same goal. Everybody understood that this was an extremely important time to continue to get those donations and get them out in the community. We all just pivoted and worked together to make it happen. And I think that speaks worlds to the relationships that we all have with one another, that we were able to do that. So go team.
I think you're right. I think it does speak a lot to those relationships. I think it also just proves what a sustainable program it can be. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, and I'd love to hear from all three of you, what's a common misunderstanding about food rescue that you might want to shine some light on?
I'll speak to that. This is Sarah. So one of the common, I think, misconceptions is that it isn't fresh food, especially the things that we're donating at Lunds Byerlys. It just doesn't, it doesn't make the mark, right? It's a day off or something like that. It is still very fresh and very just great food that's being donated. So sometimes I do think that is the misconception that it's like really old or, a few days. It's fresh food. It just has a date on it that we can't have on the shelf anymore. So that just goes to someone that needs it.
Absolutely.
That was going to be my response too, is that I think that there's this misconception that it's wilty or bruised or damaged or whatever it might be, which, there can be some things that we have to get rid of when it gets to the food shelf, but for the most part, it's really, really, it's good quality and families really appreciate it.
And I would echo that. Sometimes what I hear from folks when they find out what I do, they're surprised that it's not like just baked goods and dry goods. They're like, what? You source meat and produce? And it's like, yes, people can actually make healthy, nutritious meals out of the food rescue product that's ending up at the food shelf. So yes, to echo everything Sarah and Lisa said. And, I would also say for lack of better words, the sense of normalcy that retail food rescue donations provide at a food shelf and the way that it really changes the feel, and Lisa can speak to that too. I work with the Maverick Food Pantry at the Minnesota State University in Mankato. And, they recently got in the game of food rescue. And when those grocery store brands were sitting out and students were seeing that, there was something about just the feeling of going in and seeing those grocery items that, that they're so familiar with. And I don't know, it sort of, in a lot of ways, I think broke down some maybe feelings or judgments or stereotypes about what kind of food and, what the experience would be. So I think that's also a piece that, it really can draw folks in to be more comfortable to get the support that they deserve and that they need.
Yeah, I think people still have this misconception that food shelves are, dried and canned goods that they're going to go home with. And the community thinks of that too. And so I find when I talk to Rotary clubs or the chambers or other individuals in the community that I'm interacting with, and I'm talking about our food shelves and the kinds of choice and options that we offer, people are often really surprised by that. And I would agree with Carla that when there is variety to choose from, when there's name brands that are on the shelves and in the refrigerators, I think it normalizes as much as we can coming to a food shelf and creates that dignified experience for people that are coming and a different level of comfort.
Absolutely. I think when you talk about what people are used to seeing, I think you expect to walk in and see shelves of canned foods and dry goods, but almost half of what we get from the retailers is produce. And so when you walk into a food shelf that's working with produce, that's what you see. You see orange and yellow and green, and it's fresh and beautiful.
Yeah, I often, as I'm touring people, they will say, your food shelf looks just like a grocery store. And my response is always, yes, that's the goal.
Intentional.
Right.
And I also, having worked at an agency partner too, in a food shelf that sourced a lot of food rescue, we, to have community members come in and they see those name brands, they see, Lunds Byerlys product. And it means a lot to them to feel that their local businesses are supporting them. And you would often see that turnaround, that folks that had to come to the food shelf, when they got back on their feet, they wanted to get back out there and support the folks that supported them. And so it's a great way for our retailers to give back and to get noticed for the support that they're providing.
Fantastic. So along those same lines of people wanting to lend support, the questions are kind of popping along those same lines. So first one is from Tony in Mankato. He wants to know what he can do as a household to waste less food. He shared that the stats you communicated at the beginning of the call, Jean, are stunning to him, and he wants to do better. So maybe I'll have you answer first, Jean, but I know everybody on the call has a little wisdom to lend there.
Certainly, certainly. You know, I think it starts at home with the choices that you're making at the grocery store, and I think Sarah could probably speak better to that. And unfortunately, your food shelves and your food banks will receive donations from commercial and regular distribution models. So unless you have like garden produce is an excellent way. If you plant zucchini, everybody knows what happens when you plant zucchini. You have enough for the neighborhood. Bring that to your local food shelf. They would love to see tomatoes and zucchini and all of that bounty.
Yeah, and to just piggyback off of that, so meal planning is a really great way to determine how much food you actually need to buy and have in your house. And then when you do find that you've overbought or there's something that you're not going to use in time, reaching out to a local food shelf to donate those items. Or prepping a meal and freezing it is a great way to use all of that. Sometimes too, people are a little scared when lettuce gets a little wilty. If you put it in really cold water with ice cubes for a few minutes, it'll blossom back up and look like you just bought it. So those are just little tricks too that you can use at home that can really help extend the life too of the food that you buy.
And I know we also talk about organizing neighborhood dinners or block dinners if you just find yourself with more than you can use on any given week. So that can be a wonderful option too, I think. Good. Anything else for Tony? Okay, that's great. Lisa from Minneapolis is asking, how can she shop to ensure less food is wasted? Sarah, maybe we'll have you get us started.
Yeah, again, I think meal planning is a really big piece because if you know what you'll be making and how much it takes to make those items throughout the week, it will equate to less food waste.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes too, I look in my fridge and I say, okay, what's going to go first here? And then I think, okay, what can I make from that? And some of my very favorite meals have come from doing that.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I know as a mom of 3 also that, meal planning gets real tricky. And so I take a look at my week, what nights are reasonable for me to make like a really fresh meal. And, if there's not that many nights, I don't buy that much fresh product, or I buy things that will freeze or something. But I know that we're going to just have to make some quick meals and I better not, look into too much fresh produce for that week. So even things like that, really planning around your life and what you already have in your cupboards and in your refrigerator.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so one more from Stuart, who emailed me from International Falls. What are the hard parts of joining the food rescue program if you're a smaller operation? And what types of food are you most looking for? So it's a little bit of a two-parter. Jean, you willing to start again?
I'll start it off and then maybe throw it over to Carla. I would say the place that we start is with Right Fit. There are all sizes of retailers. We work with Walmarts and we work with Quick Trips. So you can imagine we can find partners for both of those. And if you have a smaller food shelf, you're probably not going to want to be fitted with a Walmart. But we definitely have some Quick Trips and some smaller Aldi, things like that.
Got it. It's about matching the size of the retail operation with the size of the food shelf.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, that's great.
Carla, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what kind of product are we looking for, we're looking to rescue anything that you would otherwise be throwing away. Baked goods are great. Produce is great. meat is wonderful, and all the in between. I mean, it all contributes. If you turn around and look at your own kitchen, I mean, we all need a variety of different kinds of things, and we all have different preferences. So, you know, I work with a large chunk of greater Minnesota and have some smaller independent markets, and they contribute to their food shelves. And yeah, it may not be the poundage that we might get from, you know, a super Target or Lunds Byerlys, but you know, it still has an impact. So there's nothing too small. And you know, in terms of any barriers, was that part of the question too, Elizabeth?
Right. So just like, it sounds like he's wondering what the hard parts are for maybe a small mom and pop main street shop.
Yeah, I mean, we make this program so easy. I have a hard time identifying what would be different. You know, it's really just putting the food aside as you're culling, putting it safely away wherever it needs to be in dry, refrigerated, or freezer, and getting an agency that can come and pick it up regularly. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that occurs to me that Stuart might want to hear a little bit about, just based on his question, is how the food is kept local and just how efficient and wonderful that is. So who is willing to spend a quick minute addressing that part of the program? We didn't get into that very deep.
I'm happy to.
Carla.
So yeah, I mean, we talk a lot on the food rescue team about the right fit. You know, making sure that we're not pairing an agency partner that's small. You know, the whole point of this program is to not waste food, right? So what are we doing if we pair, you know, a smaller agency partner to a really large retailer? It's not going to be humanly possible for them to distribute it all and get it out to enough people. And we don't want that burden of waste on our agency partners. So, you know, we do a lot of strategizing on the food rescue team. You know, who is located within a radius of so many miles of this market? You know, who could we pair up that has the volunteer capacity? It's a lot of reaching out to our agency partners, making sure that they have the volunteers, that they have the capacity to take something on. So there's a lot about making sure that the relationship makes sense before we just go and do that.
That's awesome.
I was going to say, I could talk to that a little bit too. Lunds Byerlys, we have really large stores, but we also have smaller stores too. And so the frequency of pickup is different based on our locations. So those much bigger operations have more frequent, and then the smaller ones just less frequent. So it makes it worth both of our time. So yeah, it can be different too.
Wonderful.
We also share stores. So if we have our smaller food shelf sites that are open 2 days a week may pick up from a location once or twice a week, and another food shelf may pick up on alternative days if it is a bigger store. And so that's been really successful for us too, to make sure we're keeping things local and at the same time not having additional things going to waste.
Fantastic. So we have a question coming from Hannah Yang with NPR. Hi, Hannah. Thanks for joining. She says, what is the outlook like for the demand in services from food shelves now that COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions are relaxing? During the pandemic, there's been an increase in services, but will that change anytime soon? And what are some things you don't anticipate changing? And what are some things that will change? So Lisa, maybe we'll start with you.
Sure. I think we're going to see increased need for quite some time. I think this period of recovery for families is going to go on for a long time. We actually have seen just in the last couple of weeks at one of our sites an increase in the number of families coming to us who are homeless and living in their cars. We've also seen an increase in single moms or young parents coming with new babies who are needing diapers and formula at a different rate than we typically see. I think when the eviction moratorium ends, I think we're also going to see a whole lot of need unfold that will also connect to the food shelves as well. So I don't think the need is going to slow down anytime soon, unfortunately.
And Lisa, that's what the statewide and national projections suggest as well, that we're sort of tracking, is that we've got a long road in front of us still. Fantastic. We have just a minute left for maybe one more question from Maddie. Does the food rescue program work with local farmers in addition to grocery retail partners to rescue excess crops? Jean and Carla.
We do. We have someone who works with agriculture, and Carla, can I let you talk about that? Heidi spoke so well about it the other day. Are you able to reiterate what she was talking about? We're working with BIPOC farmers, which is very new and exciting. It's a little bit out of our wheelhouse, so I can't speak to it greatly, but we do rescue a lot of agriculture, as well as getting it right, you know, new off the fields, like not even gleaning it, just getting it first run right off the fields too.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a lot of crops that would otherwise be plowed right under, we go in and scoop them up and make sure they make it to families' cupboards, I think. Wonderful. Well, the 30 minutes have flown by. Thank you ever so much for the great conversation. I'm so pleased we were able to do it. Thanks to all the panelists, and thanks to everybody who tuned in. Appreciate it so much, and have a really good day.